welcome to VP Media Pro. I am your host, Quaōcha Woody. Thanks for joining. VP Media Pro podcast takes a holistic approach to encouraging and educating aspiring entrepreneurs on the life cycle of business ownership. So listeners will hear open discussions from business experts and community leaders on different business success topics that range from leadership, trends, business planning, work-life balance, money, marketing, mindset, and so much more. Today's episode is how the disciplines of music and business ownership have a lot in common. I have the pleasure of introducing a musician, artist, and business owner. Our guest has topped the CMJ Jazz S charts. He has released 3 studio projects, has an extensive high-profile performance list, performing for the Carnival Cruise Lines, BB King Blues Club, Richmond Jazz Festival, and so many others. Our guest is also the founder and owner of Wills Entertainment. I want to welcome to VP Media Pro edgy trumpeter and vocalist Ellis Williams. Hey Ellis, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, and thank you for that wonderful intro. I never had an intro before. That's a first.
Oh yeah, so definitely got to make sure that we make sure that our guests are honorably edified in the proper way. So I
Mm.
definitely had to come through and do that. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to come to BP Media Pro podcast today. Tell us a little bit more about your background, like where you're from and what sparked your musical journey.
Oh man, well, I'm definitely blessed to be here. Thank you for having me. Man, my background. Okay, so it gets complicated. So I was born in Brooklyn, raised in Miami.
Mm.
When I was in Miami, my mother was a singer, so she was kind of my like my first influence in there. My grandfather played piano back in Cuba, and he played with like Tito Fuente and Celia Cruz and those guys. And as a kid, just kind of just learning how to do some things myself. And once I got into school, I was singing and then playing trumpet and then I did school abroad and I moved out to Louisiana for a little bit, and now I'm in Richmond. I got my graduate from Full Sail University, and I got my undergraduate from Norfolk State University. So behold.
Yes, awesome, awesome. I have many friends that went to Norfolk State as well. So many people. Yeah, I even have a previous guest that came from NSU. So
Well,
also,
yeah.
it's nice to have another alumni to come on the show. So what started? So tell us a little bit more about Wills Entertainment. Like what started that too? What ignited the development of the company?
So, a lot of us musicians and artists, particularly artists, we get to the point where we're just all about creation and we just want to be able to love to, be paid to do what we do. And when I was working for, companies like Busch Gardens and Carnival, I was like, wow, this is a lot of fun just being paid to play my horn. And then I kind of just thought bigger of, okay, well, I would love to be able to give this opportunity to other musicians and other people that are, in love with the craft. So that's kind of where Ewo's Entertainment came from. Originally, we wanted it to be like a lounge where people just come in and share their art. And then it kind of turned into, okay, well, let's just put up events around the city. And then it turned into, all right, well, let's go ahead and do these little events where we can help other artists just come into themselves. And we came up with like a showcases such as Rock the River Showcase, which was a really cool showcase where I got to just meet a bunch of people. And what I learned is just networking. That's probably
Mm.
the greatest thing for any person, entrepreneur or musician. It's just the whole networking out of it, and that's kind of what Ewo's Entertainment has become.
Nice, nice. So, of course, the pandemic has, helped as well as hurt a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs. How did the pandemic impact you as a musician?
Whew. Well, I have to say, I was blessed enough not to take such a hit from it. Um, a lot of my friends went from doing, gigs every weekend to literally nothing. And
Mm.
for me, I probably went from doing like about 100 gigs a year to like barely 20. And I have to say, I was just part of a good organization with a band, where we was able to, do virtual shows. And I would say, I don't want to say it's the best thing that happened, but really, came out of the box with just creative ideas. I came up with podcasts. I did my own internet virtual show, which was a lot of fun. I do it with my wife, and we just bring people on, and we just continue just the entertainment aspect. And I felt like it was really just my duty as an artist and a musician, just to entertain and just bring a little bit of joy to people that were, throughout the pandemic.
Congratulations on starting a podcast. 'Cause, starting a
Thank you.
podcast is really fun. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so many people had to think innovatively, and shift the way that they were running their business before, or doing other things, to now going online and taking advantage of the digital space. So,
Mhm.
you know, um, how would you describe your playing style?
Whew. Very, very edgy, very passionate. I'm a very passionate person when it comes to things that I love. And of course, music is something that is just, I don't know who I would be without it. So whenever I play the horn, it really touches me when I can look out into the crowd and I see people are engaged, like they're not talking, they're looking. Heck, they might be, following me and just getting loud with it, or just really feeling it. And music is just a transfer of emotion, so I really love it.
So, what kind of genre of music do you love to listen to?
Whew, I would have to say, oh gosh, there's so many. um I would have to say it depends on my how I feel for the day, but
Okay.
one genre I could probably listen to all the time and not get tired of it would probably be like jazz funk, maybe even neo soul. I really, coming up, teenager, preteen, like Erica Badu, Jill Scott. Those were the acts that I really wanted to follow. And then once I got into college, bands like Snarky Puppy, which is like my favorite band, they just started changing how you listen to jazz altogether. And that kind of just what motivated me to put out more music.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that? How did they change?
So
Jazz?
I would say probably the biggest thing they did was they created a particular song that had uh Layla Hathaway as a special guest singer. And
Mhm,
Layla Hathaway, if you don't know, is a beast. She is a
mhm.
beast
Yes,
vocalist.
it is.
And what she did on this particular song is called Something. And it's like without the vocals, it's just a great jazz song, with a little bit of funk and R&B stuff. But when she puts her vocals on top of it, it's amazing. And her particular performance of that earned them a Grammy because she did. I'm not going to ruin it for everybody, but there's something she did near the end of that track that is just mind blowing.
Okay.
And that's what got her the Grammy. And they've gotten, that was their first Grammy, and they actually didn't get it in jazz. They got it in R&B,
Wow.
which was like, out there, that, jazz artists don't get Grammys for R&Bs or just stuff that's out of the genre. So they did that. And since then they've been getting Grammys, just pretty much changing the culture of jazz. And then you have people like Robert Glasper that's been doing it for years. And it's just great. It's great.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of Layla Hathaway. My mom introduced me to her music. And you know what? Speaking of genres of music, I'm actually a fan of jazz music as well. That's actually how I get my work done. I
Uh-huh.
can really function like, it really depends on the activities that I'm doing too, as I'm understanding more about frequencies. Certain frequencies can, calm you down a little bit more,
Mhm. Yep.
boost you up, yeah.
Yep.
So, jazz is and neo soul, like you mentioned, is one of my favorite to listen to whenever I am, doing work. It just sparks my creativity.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really a science behind it. It truly is. If I wish more people would learn about, the physics behind it, the frequencies, knowing, because I personally believe that everybody, vibrates at their own frequency. And I'm not gonna get all woke on it, but we all vibrate at a different frequency. So when you listen to a song that kind of matches that, whether in
Mm,
tempo or in timbre, different sounds that come together, it's gonna hit you different.
Mhm,
Like you're just gonna feel it.
mhm.
And oh man, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so you sound so passionate about music. What's the difference between a musician and an artist, or are they the same?
Oh, this is my favorite topic. So I always say musicians and artists are two separate things.
Okay.
Uh, Musicians are all about the craft. They want to learn their craft. They want to be the most proficient player out there, learning all the genres, all that stuff. They just want to be a great student of the art. Artists just want to create. Not all artists can be musicians. Not all
Mhm.
great artists are great musicians. They just create. Sometimes, I don't know if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie about Freddie Mercury and Queen.
No.
They there's a scene where they were creating their masterpiece Bohemian Rhapsody, and they were literally in there just experimenting with different instruments. I mean, not necessarily the actual instrument, but how you play the instrument. They would take a tambourine, put it on a hollow box, hit it with a stick, and then record how those how that sound worked. And then they made a song off of that, and just other things. And that necessarily, of course, they're already great musicians, but just that kind of creativity is not something that can be taught in
Mm.
school. So that's why I say, you can be an artist can be a musician. Well, no, a musician can be an artist, but not all artists can be musicians. I feel like it's a different level of discipline it takes to be like a professional musician.
Yes. So if I was to say, or if I was to ask, where would you fall in?
Oh man, I have to say I'm at a healthy medium. I feel
Okay.
like I've created a nice balance in between the two because I love to create, but sometimes I get too lost in my creation that I'm like, "Oh, man, I don't have the fundamentals to make this creation. I need to go back and practice." So then that's when my musician side kicks in, and now I'm practicing some just basic scales or arpeggios, just some patterns and whatnot, so that I can go back into the studio and just like, "Okay, well, let me go ahead and put down this line. Oh, yeah, that now it's working." So sometimes, for me, I have to make myself somewhat in the middle so I can get the actual results that I want.
Have you seen the movie Soul?
Yes, I have.
Because just us interacting and me hearing about your passion in music, and then you just mentioned how you get lost. And so
Mhm.
the movie Soul, I think about you, and then your favorite genre is jazz.
Yeah.
So what did you think about that? Did you sit down one day and was like, wow, they're really like talking about me? Did you
Yeah,
think
it
that
it
way?
really that song, I mean, that movie resonated with me within the first 5 minutes
Wow.
because I think whether you're a musician or an artist, anybody that loves music and they hope to have a career in it, they're gonna have their moments when it's like they're faced with something that you rather be doing rather than something that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt him when he was in that school dealing with those kids, and he was, trying he was teaching them, and then he's getting lost himself, and when they were offering him the job, he's like, "Man, should I take it? I don't know." Like, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of musicians, go through every day. It's just that, "Okay, I gotta put food on the table, but, I have this passion in my heart that I don't wanna die." Not saying
Right.
that it's gonna die out when you're a teacher,
Right.
but, it's certain things we have to do to keep that going despite
Yeah.
your situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from your perspective, what makes a great musician?
Consistency,
Mm,
discipline, consistency. You don't have to practice 9 hours a day. You just have to have smart practice, and you
what is
have to
smart
be
practice?
smart practice is knowing that, yes, you wanna learn you wanna memorize a song. That's cool. You don't have to sit and, like, run it a million times. Just be consistent, like 30 minutes or 15 minutes a day. And then eventually it's going to implement itself into your playing rather than, okay, you memorized it, but now it's going to be gone because
Mm,
it's kind of like you crammed stuff. And to me, that's kind of how I see like 9 hours of practice a day. you're just trying to cram stuff in until you think you learn it, but then you don't run over it again. And then that's kind of like the discipline side or the consistency side of it. You're gonna forget. So that's why I'm like smart practice. I'll do 30 minutes a day if I have to. And in those 30 minutes, I'll cover everything that I want to cover, and I'll do it every day, probably about 3 months. I'll start hearing it in my playing where it's like I'm not thinking about it. And now I'm like, okay, I own that style. I own that note that I wanted to hit, or I owned that idea or that skill.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How are the disciplines of music and entrepreneurship? How are they the same? Because I see that you have your own company, eWills
Mhm.
Entertainment. You're a musician, or a healthy balance between being a musician and an artist. And then you just talked about how you practice. So,
Mhm.
how are the disciplines of music and entrepreneurship the same?
Oh, it is so the same.
Okay.
One thing that connects the two. Um, so when you're in school as
Mhm.
as a student of music, you have teachers that's holding you accountable. You know, once you graduate and you're in the field, you don't have that anymore. You have to
Mm,
hold yourself accountable. When you open a business, there's some guidelines, but it's not like you have to do everything A, B, C, D. Sometimes you have to just, call an audible, and you have to keep yourself consistent, disciplined. You have to hold yourself accountable. You have to check your books. You have to go ahead and follow up on things, just like with music. If you want that gig, you have to go ahead and get your branding. You have to go ahead and do your networking. You got to call. It's literally the same thing. Especially if you're considering yourself an artist and you're trying to be, popular and get those followers and all that, you have to treat your artistry like a brand, like a business. So yeah, it's very much the same.
is it easy? Or because, there are so many musicians that are emerging, and so many artists that are emerging. Is it easy to be seen? But, or, how does that work when it comes to standing out?
It's it depends on the individual. Like, it's hard. It's hard regardless, but it can be harder if you're like, someone like me who's an introvert. People that might know me, they probably think, he's lying. But no, I'm really an introvert. So, that if you're gonna be seen, you have to go out there and play. You have to perform. You have to put out videos, you have to put out music. You have to share yourself and open yourself up to the world. And introverts are like, I'm not with that, but you have to do what you have to do. And even if you're not, you still have to, once again, like, hold yourself accountable, be consistent, and just trying to get yourself out there and calling up with people and doing the business side of your artistry.
It's so crazy that you mentioned that you're an introvert, because a lot of times you don't think that a musician is an introvert, or an artist is an introvert, because they're out in the open. They are, on tours or meeting
Hmm.
so many different people. They seem like they're larger than life, but they're performing everywhere. And
Hmm.
so I totally understand it, because I too am an introvert, but I find out that we come alive with things that we are really passionate about. So it's
Hmm.
easy to get that misunderstood, like, hey, no, she's not an introvert, or
Yeah.
no, Alice is not an introvert. But you come alive when we talk about music. But outside
Hmm.
of that, for me at least, I'm actually quiet. I am more so observing everything that's
Yeah.
going on.
Same
So
here.
okay, so similar.
Mhm. And I
Yeah.
have to add this, um, and this is for the listeners. You see an artist on stage, and you don't believe them to be an introvert. But when you think about it, to be an introvert, you want to be to yourself. You want to be distant. You want to be away from people. When you're at a concert with, I don't know, thousands of people in the audience, and you have that one person that's on stage that's probably like, I don't know, about 50 feet away from the nearest person.
Hmm.
Isn't that what an introvert is? They're away. Yeah, they might be getting looked at, but for me, when I'm on stage, I feel that I'm in control. I'm in control of where I'm taking my audience. So, so for me, it makes me so much more comfortable being on stage, one, away from people. Not that I'm like necessarily better or above anybody. It's just that I feel more comfortable being in control of where I can take my audience. You know, if I had to be at a concert watching somebody else, then I'll probably be a little nervous, like, "Oh, I'm sitting here, like I really want to enjoy this concert, but too many people around. I'm just gonna sit here and watch." So yeah, so you can definitely be on stage and be an introvert.
I believe that to be true. I believe that to be true. As an introvert, you play with the band. How was that dealing with multiple different personalities?
It's funny, like, what I noticed, most bands don't necessarily do do business in person anymore. You know, we we when we come together, we play, we talk about the music because it's easy, but it's almost like you get uncomfortable when you start talking about, okay, well, we need to get this LLC going, or we need to go ahead and talk about, this marketing plan, or we're going to do some merch. It gets so much easier to talk about that through email or text, rather than being, when you're actually in person at a rehearsal. Because at a rehearsal, the thing that brings us together is the music. So it's easy just to talk all day about what we want to do with the music. But whoo, if somebody brings up, hey, we need to go ahead and deal with some of these emails, or talk about this gig that we need to book, everybody's gonna be quiet on that one.
Yes, so introverts can be musician and artist. I know one introverted artist or musician, maybe she's both, Lady Gaga. I think I remember like a few years ago she did an interview and I believe she mentioned that she not only do she like privacy, but she's introverted. And that blew me away because when she's on
Mhm.
stage, like you said, she has control over her audience.
Yeah.
And so I just said, that's just someone who's just extremely passionate about what it is that they do. But they come alive performing,
Yeah.
doing something that they really have a passion about. So absolutely, it is possible to be larger than life as an introvert.
Mhm.
What were some of the challenges that you face as a musician, artist, and a business owner?
Trying to do everything.
Oh,
Yes. Like, time management is my biggest thing. I try to make myself available for people, but
mhm.
just because, for my mental health, my physical health, I have to, come back and say, "Okay, look, I can't do it, and it's okay." And I have to know, what my priorities are, and then just added to all of that, I'm married and I have a family, so it's like, okay, wow, that's like 4 big things I gotta worry about. So yeah, it's really the balance and trying to do everything, and, like, I literally have just a big board in the kitchen that just has all the things that I wanna accomplish for the month, and every once in a while, just go look so that I'm not thinking about it in my head and go crazy. So,
Yeah, so it is important to have a vision board, not only just as a business owner, but also as a musician as well.
yeah. Yep.
Have both. Yeah, I can only imagine. So, like before the pandemic, were you always traveling?
Yeah, we, with one of my bands, Good Shot Judy, we actually was getting ready to do a couple of gigs, out of state. I believe we had one in Colorado.
Hmm.
We had one in Florida we were getting ready to do, and we were, traveling all up and down Virginia. So we were doing a lot of stuff, out of town, and I was even getting ready to potentially go on tour, with another artist and another band, and just things kinda just like, up, back burner, you gotta wait. So,
Wow. So yeah, that's a challenge.
mhm,
Um, so I gotta ask you, Ellis. I just have to ask you what now. So we talked about the challenges that you face as a musician, artist, and a business owner, but what was the highlight of your career so far?
oh man, it's hard because I've been thinking about this, because people always like, "Oh man, what's the greatest thing you think you've done?" And for me, I want to say it's a performance, like performing for a big crowd. But I would say really it's releasing my music. Every time I release a single or an album, like, it's a huge, huge highlight for me. Behind my laptop here on my wall, I have all my albums and project that I've been on, just on the wall, and it's kind of just to remind me that, hey, you accomplished this, don't stop. So for me, it's just being able to say, wow, I put all my time into this project, my baby. Now I let it out into the world for people to hear, and it's such an intimate, thing. So yeah, I would say that's probably my biggest accomplishment in a career, going for that Grammy, or at least
Yeah.
attend the Grammys as a performer, one of the two. It's happening.
Hey, listen, it is definitely possible. I mean, the way you grind, I mean, and then you've released 3 studio projects. That's really huge. How
Thank
much
you.
work and time goes into creating these types of projects?
Um, it it depends because actually, most of the work goes into the promotion
Mm,
and the release of the project. You creating stuff. I mean, there's guys I know that can create a whole album in a day. A whole album in a day by themselves, all the instruments or on the computer, and just do that. But then it's the editing product process, the post editing, mastering, getting your artwork, knowing who's gonna distribute your stuff. Are you gonna make CDs? How many CDs you gonna try to sell? Where are you gonna sell it? You gotta promote, you gotta book your gigs. That's where all the real work comes. So that could take, I would say, to get an album out successfully, I would probably say at the very least 3 months of planning, maybe a month. You could probably do it in a month, but to really be, successful, if you're not already, have I guess, clout behind your name or whatever, I would say 3 months. Some of these guys, they put out an album like, "Oh, I'm dropping an album tonight." I just decided it's coming out, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, Drake dropping out a new album. He did it in a day? Sure."
right. Y so I know as a business owner, you definitely I highly recommend that you align that business owner align themselves with the business coach or even marketing coach. But would you say that the same as far as a musician? Since you mentioned that even as an artist or a musician, is you treat it like it's a brand. So with that comes mentors and support. What kind of mentorship and support do you recommend for a musician?
Um, I recommend 2 mentors, 2 types of mentors. You need like your teacher, like whether it's a professor that plays the same type of instrument, or they've done something that you want to do, that you want to follow, that you can ask any sort of questions. But then you need almost like a business type friend or consultant, because I've never really met a lot of teachers or mentors that were strictly all about music, that they could tell me, "Hey, you need to go ahead and keep up on your trends with what's going on in the business world or in the music world. You need to, look into these things with copyright or trademarking and that kind of stuff with your music." Or you don't talk that kind of stuff with like a music mentor. But sometimes you might run into somebody that has both, but you have to make sure that you either have 2 people, or that one mentor has both of those qualities. They're the musician that you wanna be, or the artist that you wanna be, and they're also the business minded as well.
How does copyright work and trademark work? I mean, you guys are constantly putting out new material. Do you copyright everything, then you put it out? So tell me about that process.
I'm more of a copyright guy.
Okay.
As far like when it comes to music, you gotta copyright. You have to, because it's so easy just for something to blow up, and something that you did is on that project, and you might not even ever know that it's there, and then that thing might have blown up in another country, and that's like, I don't know, hundred thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars that you're missing out on, and that's just because you thought, "Oh, I just wanna just do something fun," but something that might be small to you could be huge to somebody else. So that's why you always have to, protect yourself and copyright. Sometimes I just, every couple months, I'll just go ahead and put a bunch of, ideas, whether it's like, lyrics that I've written down, or, chord progressions, or just full song that I might have recorded myself, but it's not done, but I'll just go ahead and have the ideas, and you can copyright that. So I'll just send them all as a single submission, because I think you can do up to a certain amount, at one submission for, like, $35 or $50, one of the 2. Send them all, and I'm like, "Okay, good. I'm protected. Now let me continue to work on this." because you never know what happens. Trademarking, on the other hand, is more so when you're talking about branding,
Mhm.
anything that's like visual, my logo or like a t-shirt design I want to sell or whatnot. That's when I'll start getting into trademarking. Or if you're really trying to do branding and you want to brand your artist name, hey, trademark it. Not a lot of people do that.
Mm. So is that important to do?
I would
To
say yes. I
Okay.
would say yes, because there's so many different, artists out there that's trying to do the same thing. A lot of people didn't know this, but, Notorious B.I.G. was known originally as Biggie Smalls, but he had to
Mhm.
change his name to Notorious B.I.G. because there was already somebody out there called Biggie Smalls. They weren't anywhere near as big as he was, but because they owned the name, he had to change it, or we're gonna have to cough up, dollars. So that's why, you have to treat your artistry, your brand, you have to treat it like a business. Trademark that sucker. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of branding, to raise brand awareness about who you are as a musician in the marketplace. I see a lot of musicians and artists are using YouTube, Instagram, and even TikTok.
Mhm.
So, how are you on those three? What are your thoughts of displaying your artistry on those three social media platforms?
I'm learning more and more every day that starting out with your marketing had to start with you. What I mean by that is you are a walking billboard. And if you wanna build your fan base, you have to start with your local self. So you need to wear stuff that's gonna have your name on it. And I learned that recently from a producer named, Rio Bridges, who who's a Grammy, nominated winner. He's done amazing things, and he told me that, yeah, everything you wear, everything you do, you need to go ahead and talk about your brand. And the way I feel about Instagram, Facebook, social media, those are great. Don't get me wrong, those are great. But the way I see it is if you haven't established yourself in your own neighborhood, you're almost stretching yourself thin by trying to reach out to others. It's like
Mhm.
it's almost like if you think about a bomb. You drop a bomb in one area and that bomb is gonna spread and it's gonna connect, it's gonna affect the people in that area. You don't wanna go ahead and just drop a bunch of little bombs that's gonna like hit all these areas because there's gonna be some area that it didn't hit. So that's the whole thing with your branding. You want to make sure that you start from within, you start from your neighborhood, you tell your family, then you go ahead and you talk about your social medias. And at that point, in my opinion, I would just focus on one thing at a time and master it. Master Facebook, master Instagram. Because something that you taught me, you want to make sure that that you pick the right social media platform for your business or your artistry. TikTok might be great for one person, but it might not make sense for another person that might be doing, I don't know, they have a lawn care business. Wouldn't make it.
Mhm.
But Facebook now, Facebook might have your demographics.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what if someone is a musician, is an artist that's looking to brand themselves and really take this seriously and own who they are in the marketplace? What if they're not? What if there's no local love? What if they're not supported locally? What do you recommend at that point?
Gotta go out. You have to be seen. Um, if you're in a place and you've done your due diligence and you performed, you went to open mics, you sat in with people, you put on your own personal shows, and still nobody really feels you like that, maybe you might want to consider, if you're serious, you might want to consider moving to a new place, because it wouldn't make sense for you to market yourself to, let's say, you're somebody from Tennessee and you're marketing yourself to New Orleans, to a New Orleans demographic. Eventually, they're gonna want to see you in person. Once everything opens back up, you know, they're gonna want to see you in person. And I feel like that might be something that's like it's a trend now for a lot of musicians to do like virtual performances, and that's great. But Eventually, unless you really nail it, eventually people are gonna wanna see you in person.
Absolutely.
Those, you don't have those resources to, like, fly out to Indonesia and do a gig for those 30,000 people that stream your music. You might not have the resources for that.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, as far as, like, scaling too fast. Yeah, I definitely, have met a musician who had the opportunity to whose song played in another, area, and it blew up. They scaled fast, and they didn't have the funds to
Mm,
take them to that area, where their audience was, like, craving
yeah,
their music and craving the artists themselves. So absolutely, I do agree with you on that. Starting local and then working your way, and then expanding your bandwidth at as you progress.
mhm, yep.
Yeah. So what are some current trends? What are some additional trends in music outside of what we talked about as far as social media goes? What are some other trends in music?
Right now, I've seen so many people hopping on platforms like Twitch and
Mm,
doing shows there and
okay.
creating a community, not just a fan base, because there's a difference between having you have your fan base that's gonna, like, buy all your stuff, they're gonna, watch your videos and all that, but then you have your fan base and then you have your community, which when
What's
you have
the
your
difference?
when you have your community, you're talking about your fans know each other. Your fans are gonna talk to each other about your music. Your fans are gonna come to your stream and they're gonna go ahead and talk to you and they wanna learn about you. And it's more of an intimate thing, more of a personal thing with your community. Those in your community are gonna follow you to the ends of the earth. Once you get somebody in on that level of fandom, I mean, you could literally put out an album of just hitting my mute, and they're gonna be like, "Wow, that's amazing," because they understand you and your
Right.
artistry.
Mhm.
So that's the difference between, like, just having a regular old fan base and a community, and I feel like that's kinda where music is going right now, and you're
Mhm.
getting so many more artists that are kind of emerging from those platforms, and in that case, hey, if that's what you're gonna be known as the virtual, performer, then, hey, that's fine. You don't necessarily have to do, a lot of performances in person. I mean, there might be people in your neighborhood that might not even know, who you are or what you do. They might not even know that you live there, but that's cool because you created your community online on your virtual space that people can just follow you and they say, "Oh, all right, I'm going here. This is almost like my virtual bar, and this is the artist that I'm used to hearing." And that's kind of the biggest trend I've seen right now. That and of course, like you said, like the TikTok and doing all those because I mean, there's people that's blown up with just having a song and a hook that people can take and turn into a dance or a
A
funny
challenge.
a challenge.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. There's a
Crazy.
lot of challenges out there.
Yes, yes. Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about I wanted to talk to you about this earlier. So we're definitely gonna go backwards just a little bit. You mentioned that you have a family. You are maintaining you're maintaining work-life balance. How difficult or how much of a challenge is that to maintain work-life balance as a musician
It's
and
it's
business owner?
it, it can be challenging, very challenging, only because remember when we talked about musicians and entrepreneurs have to hold themselves accountable?
Absolutely.
It goes right back to that. You have to hold yourself accountable, not necessarily in getting stuff done, but not putting too much of your time into one thing. I could be editing a video because I also edit videos and do my own photos and stuff. So I could be editing a video because I want to put out a lyric video and I have a deadline, but now because let's say something happened and now I'm trying to get the video out in the day. So now I'm spending all my time on this video trying to get it done. And now I've sacrificed so many other things that I wanted to get done that wouldn't have been a problem if I would have just managed my time a little better and done, okay, and instead of me doing a whole day on this video, let me do 2 hours devoted to this video editing. All right, this is I'm done with this now. Let me go ahead and put 30 minutes of practice. Okay, I'm done with that. All right, 6 o'clock. I'm not doing anything else unless I have a gig. I'm done. Family time. You know, so it's really, 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 really big for musicians as well as being an entrepreneur is holding myself accountable and getting my time management right.
Yeah, because I can only imagine as a musician, you want to be seen, you want to play, whether it's with the band or, as yourself, you want to get gigs because that's how you guys eat. And
Yeah.
so, you know, my thing is, how do you manage opportunities? There's so many. One of the things that I do see the entrepreneurs struggle with is saying yes to every single opportunity that comes their way.
Mhm.
So, how do you maintain the discipline and knowing, okay, which opportunity to choose?
Yeah, so it's another thing I learned recently, very, very recent, like a couple weeks ago. It's okay to not be available. You
Mhm.
almost you can almost add value to yourself by not being available all the time because people are gonna think, "Oh, well, they already have something. They're booked. They're in high demand." If I can't get you for this performance because you're somewhere else, to be like, "Well, how much do I have to pay you to drop that gig and play with us?"
Mm.
Well, at that point, now you're talking about business ethics and morality if you wanna go ahead and, like, completely, you know, drop a gig that you already booked yourself for. But the thing is, people will know that, "Hey, this person is in high demand. Might not be able to get you for this gig, but we'll go ahead and change our whole operation as if that means bringing you on to the project." And that will happen, and it can be the same thing, in a business sense. There'll be people that wanna collab, with me, and sometimes I just can't do it, when they wanna do it. So I just say, "Hey, I'm not available for this date, but, hey, if you really wanna do something, let's get together, let's have lunch, and let's talk about creating something completely new during a time that we're both available, and it's gonna be even bigger than what we initially wanted to do."
Mm.
It's really just the communication and yeah, not necessarily making yourself completely available. You At the end of the day, it's your value. You have to increase your value by any means necessary because someone with high value will be seen, they'll be heard, and they will be chased.
I agree. And then there have that community that you were talking about that is ranting and raving. I find that, a lot of Rihanna's community is craving her music.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been like that for the past, what, it's been 4 years since she dropped something?
Yeah, it's yes. So I
Mhm.
see that they're either patient for your music, because they're like, you know what, hey, I'm gonna wait for this masterpiece. Then they're either saying, you know what, I've been waiting long enough, come out with your masterpiece already.
And the genius behind that is because she's done so many things outside of music. Her same, her and I have to call it her community because she interact with them on Twitter. She talks with her people and she knows what they like. So, she creates her own business outside of music and they're gonna follow that in the meantime. So by the time she does put out that album, I guarantee you, no matter what she does, it is going to blow up. It's gonna sell. People are going to it's automatically gonna be number 1. It might just debut, number 1 before it even drops. That might happen, and it might not even be good music, who knows? But it's just the fact that she's kept people on their toes. Kendrick Lamar is another person, kept
Mhm.
people on their toes to the point where it's like when he finally does drop something, like, "Look, I don't care what any critics say. I need to buy it and hear it for myself. Take my money."
Yeah. Yeah, you know who else is a great musician, a great artist? Bruno Mars.
Yes.
And so his band is phenomenal.
Mhm.
Just listening to the piece, just listening to the trumpet, listening to the piano playing. I mean, it's phenomenal. Do you find yourself when you're listening to music? I'm pretty sure I'm about to answer my own question, but that you pick part each because okay, let me tell you. So I have a friend who loves music. When I say loves music, I mean you two probably are like neck to neck, right?
Mhm.
And so we were listening to music, and me, I don't have a trained ear like a musician has, but I love music. I love jazz. But when I was listening to a particular song, he asked, "Do you hear the piano?" And I didn't hear it at first. I did not hear it at first at all. And then the moment that he asked, "Did I hear the piano?" I'm like, "Oh snap! I do hear it." I was
Yeah.
able to really isolate the melodies in the song, the instruments in the
Mhm.
song. I thought that was so cool. So then he asked, "Do you hear that bridge? Do you hear do you hear the?" Then he started doing the tempo, and I was like, "Oh snap! I hear that." So do you have that magical ear to like isolate music like that in songs?
Oh my goodness. Not only do I have that ear, but it's a blessing and a curse. Any musician, and probably artists too, any musician that you ask a question, they'll probably say the same thing. You almost have to learn how to tune yourself down, or tone
Mm.
yourself down so you can actually enjoy a piece of music. Because a
Oh,
lot of us like to critique each other. A lot of us will watch each other's performances, listen to me like, I don't know if I would have done that, but that's still cool. Or, oh, I have to listen to that, I have to listen to that. So it's only get to the point where, oh man, I'm not like, let me just sit back and just take in
enjoy.
what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and the good thing is, it's not just it's not a bad thing, being able to hear all those things. It's like, like your friend appreciates every aspect of that song, which makes it so beautiful because we can it hits us on so many more levels than like someone that might not have that ear, you know? And then it gives us more of a what you call it, it's a lot nicer for us when we can share it with somebody that doesn't hear it, because now I'm like, "You hear that? And now I can watch how this person is affected this in the same way that I am." And then that to me hits me different, it's like, "Yeah, like we're
Yeah,
connected now." Get it? You feel that? We're connected now.
exactly. Music do connects,
Mhm.
it connects everyone.
Yep.
And that's the beautiful part about music in itself is that connection. We may not have anything else in common, but just that the music, how we were influenced or impacted by that music will bring us closer together. So that's a beautiful thing too, what I realized about music. And now to this day, it's like now when I hear a song, I no longer hear it the way that I
Mhm.
used to hear it before. Now I'm like, "Oh, I hear that. Oh, I'm isolating everything and
Yep.
the tempo." Yeah, it's crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, so one of the things that I've gathered since our episode so far, Ellis, is that you have um 6. So I've gathered 6 disciplines,
Mm,
right? 6 disciplines of a musician, and business ownership, and what these 2 have in common. And most people think that they're different, but uh, I guess it's safe to say that there's really not much that is different from a musician, an artist, and as well as a business owner. So I'm gonna tell you what I have, and
okay.
then you let me know if I am spot on, and feel free to add to it too. So what I've gathered so far is that the discipline that you need is time management for both, outsourcing and delegation. I've gathered building and engaging community, consistency, maintaining consistency, and accountability is number 5. And 6 is being all in, being passionate about being passionate about your craft. And I guess number 7 is what's something that I see is really important, that is not taken advantage of, is work life balance.
So what you're saying is I need to write a book, is what you're saying.
I'm saying you need to write a book. And you know what? I also want to know, are you going to be a music teacher? I mean, because are you thinking about, I guess, at some point in time, being a music teacher?
I've always thought about it. For me, originally I wanted to be a band director. When I was a kid, I was just like, man, I want to be a band director. I want to share this knowledge with people. But as I became more of an artist, I became so passionate about sharing my music in different ways. So the way I feel is, I don't want to be that teacher that's teaching from a book. I want to be that teacher that teaches from experience.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean? I wanna be like, "All right, I'm in my 50s, 60s. let me be a professor of music. Let me have these, awards and plaques and stuff on my wall so people can see that, hey, what I'm saying, you listen to me, we can go there. Like I know what I'm talking about. And I would love to do that. But in the meantime, I do have like, my individual students. And for me, that I love doing that because it's really rewarding seeing how the passion in like a student can grow over time, seeing how they
Mm.
practice. I have one student that we've only been together for about 2 months, and he's a local guy. And when he started singing, he's a guitarist too. He started singing. I was like, okay, yeah, we know we need to work. And I mean, we went from not being able to really have an ear to this guy is picking up songs and he's playing, and he's like I'm like, wow, who are you? It's only been 2 months, and for
Wow.
me, that's very gratifying, as a teacher. So yeah, definitely teaching is definitely in the cards when I get older. But right now, I'm just like, for my students, let me get this experience.
Yeah, I think that's phenomenal. How do you know if you should take your artistry and turn it into a business? How would you know?
I think you have to know whether it is you wanna share this artistry
Mm.
just to share it, or if you wanna make a living. If you wanna make a living off of your artistry, then yeah, you need to treat it like a business. But if you just love creating and you just wanna share it and that's it, then just share it.
So that's
Don't
more so like a hobby.
Yeah, like and the thing is, a lot of people there's a lot of people that sometimes they get thrust into the business just because they just wanna perform and they just like doing they'll just go on the side of the street and just play, and they just love to do it, but then somebody picks them up and they might see worth in, "Oh, this person can make me money as a manager." So, as an artist, you have to ask yourself, "Okay, do I wanna do this just for me and for others, or do I wanna actually make money off of this?" And you
Mm.
have to know that from day one, because if you try to go into the artistry as a business but you're not really passionate about sharing, you just wanna it's just about the money, then, hey, you might do well. But if you really just wanna share, but then all of a sudden you get caught up and people wanna book you for all these things and then money and then, "Oh, I'm not getting paid my worth," then you're gonna lose your passion after time because all you really wanna do is just share and create. So you really have to ask yourself, "Okay, what do I want out of this? And now who do I need to bring around me?" Because some you said earlier, with one of my 7, 6 or 7, you talked about, delegating and all that. Team. You gotta have the right people around you, whether it's a business or a musician. You gotta have a lot of these people, the reason why they're able to create is because they're left with just the opportunity to just create and worry about their music. They had their business manager doing the business, they have their social media guy, they have their marketing guy, they have their networking guy, they have all of those people, their entourage or whatnot. So you have a good team is gonna leave you open to just really focus on what you love to do, whether it's the music or just your crafting or whatnot that's for your business.
Man, you said something that was so key is that because one thing that I've realized is that that's all a lot of entrepreneurs just want to do is to create. They just want to innovate, and it's really hard, especially coming in as an aspiring entrepreneur. You have to wear all the hats, and
Yeah.
that can get really frustrating. And that can raise a lot of self doubt. It's like, oh my goodness, at what point can I now start to outsource a lot of this work so that I can really focus on an area within my business that I really am passionate about? And
Mhm.
so you just that piece is really important. What about jingles? So, do you think that there's still a trend in jingles? Do you think
Oh, yeah.
that? Okay, okay,
Oh, yeah,
because
the money is in jingles. The
I think
money is in jingles, yeah.
okay, okay, yeah, because I was curious about that as a musician. Do people still focus on creating jingles?
I feel like there's more people than we know that's out there making jingles. Because people think, "Oh, I have to make a jingle for a huge product or for a commercial." No, sometimes you just need to create just a little 3-note motif of, ba da ba 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 for your local restaurant because they want to do a radio ad. Like you have sometimes it's okay to just to think small because it's a smaller businesses that could really benefit and you might not get the pay you want, but just the fact that hey, let me do this for you if you can do something for me. You know,
Hmm.
let's help each other out. If it's a restaurant that has music, hey, I'll write you guys a jingle if you allow me to perform some of my music for an album release. I don't really have the money. Can you let me do that? Okay, sure. It's all about the networking because a lot of times it's not always going to be by the books, and that's kind of where the discipline comes back in and the accountability is just like, okay, well, what audible should I throw to get the result that I want?
We live in such a microwavable society that everyone just wants to get to the end of the course instead of really understand the journey and just enjoy it. So,
Yeah.
like you just said, starting local in that way instead of wanting to be, I guess, seen so fast.
Hmm.
Put the work in. That's what I'm hearing. So
Yep.
that's another thing. Like you mentioned before.
Accolades.
Yes,
Those
yes, put the work
accolades.
in, and because that's a portfolio right there. And
Mhm.
what I find too, like you just said, the ba da ba 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 part. Okay, I
Yep.
can't sing like you can, but I try. But
You get a B. You get a B. Like a
okay.
B minus. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But it's in my head. It's memorable. So I see that um, jingles are they're not only are they relatable, they can connect, people with each other, spark a whole conversation, a whole, conversation just about that. But
Mhm.
also, it keeps the conversation going.
Mhm.
It stays in your mind as a memory. So I would love to, if I was an artist, I think that would be a good move. Is
Yeah.
to start writing some jingles like you just mentioned. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So outside of eWills Entertainment, outside of you working and connecting with your band, what are some other things that you, Ellis, enjoy doing?
Oh man. It's hard because there's just not a lot of things that I get into outside of music. I would say I'm kinda growing into the whole gardener thing. It's weird, but, like, I have a garden in the back. I just like growing stuff. I like learning about those kinda things, and, and then, like, I would say probably, like, TV production, because one of the things that kinda came, an opportunity that came was I was able to make a virtual cooking show for my wife's channel, and it was just
Ah,
kinda cool, like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm filming this, doing the lights, I'm doing the script, I'm editing and all the other stuff," so it was something that was really cool that I never thought I would do, and I kinda really like it, like, I made, for my latest single, I made a short 1 minute like TikTokish type of video that just showcased women in Richmond doing their thing. And I was like, this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. So if music wasn't a thing, I would either be a gardener or probably be that guy behind the camera, for the morning, I don't know, for the morning show or something.
that's pretty cool. That's it. That those two are definitely different.
Yeah.
Garden having the green. So that's cool. You have a green thumb.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I know it's weird. I don't know when or how that happened. Just at some point, I put a seed in the ground and somehow a tomato tree or a tomato plant came up, and I'm like, "Oh, I might actually be good at this."
Yes, I definitely enjoy gardening too. So I used to work for a florist shop for many years, and I absolutely love. That's where I learned everything I need to know about plants. So now I have plants all throughout my place, and I
Uh,
had a garden too. So yes, it's something about the nature and peace. I don't know. It just does something
oh,
to me.
okay, you ready? You ready for this? You ready for this? So, it's very similar to music and
Ah,
music creation because
okay.
you have to be patient. You have to be kind with the plant. You have to treat your baby. You have to water it. You have to put in the due diligence. You have to learn it. So then once that thing actually grows, not only can you like, wow, that really looks good, but you can eat the fruits of your labor.
I love that.
And
That
it's
is
just
a good
like,
way.
hey, I love this.
Yeah, I
Same
love that.
same
And
thing with your business.
exactly.
Mhm.
exactly. It's the same thing, and it takes and anything that is made so fast doesn't really taste so good.
You're right.
It
You're right.
doesn't
Doesn't
taste
look
good
that
at
good,
all.
doesn't taste that good.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So please tell us, Ellis, how can listeners contact you?
All right. You can actually contact me at book Ellis at ewillsentertainment.com. That's EWILLZ entertainment.com. You can hit me up there for any bookings and whatnot. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff at Ewill's Music. That's where I always talk about my music. You have Ewo's Entertainment too. You can find search them up on social media as well at Ewo's Entertainment. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much, Alice, for your time and letting us know how much music and entrepreneurship have so much in common. It's been a pleasure talking to you today and learning about music and artistry. And you invited us into your passionate space. I'm sure those who have listened learned so much. Be sure to like and follow the Village Project on social media, guys. We're active on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Instagram. To catch a recap of today's episode, leave a comment and let us know your takeaway from today's episode as well. Also, subscribe to the emailing list at www.villageproject.net to receive notifications on when new episode posts and so much more. Again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Ellis. And as always, grind hard, but self care harder.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so honored to be here.
And fulfill your fantasy.